All right, let's get started. So I'm going to talk about becoming senior, what it means to be senior, if anything at all, and also, in my opinion, what it takes to succeed at being senior and what makes a great senior. So I should preface this by saying that obviously it's all my opinion, and some people will listen to this and they'll disagree with parts of it or all of it, and that's completely fine. These are just things that I value in senior engineers and things that I would look out for personally. So what does it mean to be senior? Let's go through the definition very quickly, as people usually do in presentations. So senior, the title means very little, in all honesty, by itself anyway. In practice, I think what we're talking about are people that are strong individual contributors, but that also have an impact on those around them, both from a technical perspective, but also just their personality. You know, they promote like good behaviors in their team and company, and they help build great products. They have a big impact when it comes to building products. So I should also mention, I guess, actually before I move on, is that we don't necessarily mean senior software engineer. So you might find that for whatever reason, people don't have senior-ish titles, but they still exhibit these behaviors. In my mind, those are still senior people, senior level people. You should find that people that have those kind of more senior titles, principal engineer and staff engineer, senior lead engineer, whatever, they should exhibit some of these behaviors or all of these behaviors that I'm going to talk about. But it's not always the case, but it should correlate. So let's talk about the attributes. And I should mention that these are all learned behaviors, in my opinion. So I think that, yes, certain personalities will find that it'll, you know, this particular thing will come easier to me, or that I really struggle with this other thing. But in general, I think all of the stuff that I'm talking about today can be worked on. Like as long as somebody's introspective and is looking to learn and grow, they can always improve on these skills. All right, so let's talk about the first one, which is ego or lack of ego. So there's a great example. There's a woman I work with, Kay, in Rapid7, and she is the epitome of this. She doesn't exhibit any real ego whatsoever when it comes to work. So if you're in a meeting with her and the presenter is talking about some acronym and a lot of people are sitting there confused, like, what is this acronym? I've never heard of it. She would be the first person to say, look, excuse me, I don't know what this is. I don't understand. And contrary to what you might think initially, you might think, oh, well, should she understand that because she's a senior engineer or like a more senior level engineer? She's a lead and runs a team. It's actually, in my mind, the fact that she would bring something up and say like, oh, actually, I don't understand this concept or I don't know what this thing is, to me is a perfect behavior of a senior engineer. It's like, you know, willing to sort of put ego aside and say like, look, I'm not trying to impress anyone. I'm just out here to solve problems, and I'll learn from anyone. I'll ask anyone and whatever. You would find that people that are like this, you know, would be happy to approach a way more junior engineer, like even a placement straight out of or on their placement year in uni, and say like, look, you know more about X than me. Could you teach me about this? Like that's a good example of somebody that can set like their ego aside and just is more interested in learning and growing and building cool software. All right, appetite for learning. This is a really important one for me as well. It's always important to be stretching yourself and pushing the boundaries of what you know. For this talk, actually, I thought I would sort of take this as a learning opportunity. I could have probably done way better slides, to be honest, but I ended up deciding that, right, okay, no, I want to learn something. So I built it using MDX, and there's some React components thrown in and whatever. It was just kind of an opportunity to do something that's slightly out of my comfort zone. I'm kind of pushing the boundaries of what I know because I'm interested in learning and growing. You know, that's kind of something that I would find very important. Revisiting the basics as well, sort of being able to go like, look, everything depends on these fundamentals. So if I don't understand the fundamental building blocks, I should revisit them. So like, if say it's been a long time since I've looked at certain data structures, maybe it's time for me to go back, bite the bullet a bit, and be like, look, how does this work? Or like, I know I should probably know this, but actually, it's been a long time, and let's just, try and learn some of these things or relearn them. Maybe you didn't learn them in the first place, maybe you got by without. Maybe it's just bite the bullet and learn it. And teaching others as well. It was Richard Feynman that said, the best way to know something or demonstrate that you know something is to teach other people. You try and teach somebody something and you can't explain it like you could, you can't explain it that maybe like a 5-year-old or something could understand it, then do you really understand it yourself? Another good example is actually Marty McKeeveney, who's presented at this conference on Dynamo, exhibits all of these. He's really good. He has that kind of like growth mindset. Is like if you put something in front of him, he's not really like, oh, I'll never be able to do this. He'll just go like, right, okay, I need to kind of like go out and do this. I'm gonna be single-minded and learn it. And then like that last point, he's teaching other people at this conference because he's trying to learn himself. He knows like if I really want to know Dynamo, the best way to do that is to explain it to other people. And I actually have another person for this one. I was just thinking a few minutes ago. There's a engineer on my team called Sarah, and she actually has grown quite a lot in the last couple of years. Where she started off quite timid in the team that I work on, and through experience and just kind of like being through the ringer and just like working hard, has kind of like gained that confidence and that courage that, in my opinion, it takes to be like a really, really good senior engineer. And she would be, the first to say at a meeting or, when we're whiteboarding something like, no, like, have we thought about this? Like this, this maybe will break stuff, or like, what if this all goes wrong? Or actually, like, we shouldn't commit to this particular thing because we're overcommitting or whatever it is. Having that courage to say, like, stand up and say, like, look, despite what is maybe the popular opinion, I'm actually gonna, make a stand here and just say like, no, we shouldn't do this, or go against the grain a bit. And that's probably one of the things that's hardest to just learn without kind of like being through it. So I definitely say out of all the attributes, this is the one that's maybe takes the most kind of like experience. And then communication, I've got a bit of code here in Rust. You don't need to know Rust, but if you've done a bit of code, you'll kind of look at this and you'll understand like this is terrible, right? So I've got let x variable equals 1, which, what is x? Why call it x variable? If it is a variable, it's kind of redundant. Let y1 variable equals 2. Like, it just gets worse, to be honest. So I've written this terrible code. If you're a coder, for the most part, you'll look at this and you could pick a number of things that you think are wrong with it, and that's cool. But for whatever reason, a lot of engineers aren't great at looking at their softer skills and saying like, right, okay, well, I want to explain this concept. How would I explain this in a really succinct way? And you maybe pick something up in a code review, but maybe if you see a sentence like this that I have in front of us, like, these services are engineering cohort, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's terrible English. It's not succinct. It's not clear. It's not concise. So somebody who is a senior level, to me, should be able to communicate well. Should be able to like take something like that sentence and say something better like this. We built a stable event-driven system. Like, you should be able to convey a message, whether that be through a talk like this or through an email or whatever it is, or through documentation. And then I want to talk about diversity, because diversity is super important all the time. And obviously, it's really topical at the minute, but it's incredibly important all the time. And I think what I mean by this slide is that I don't just mean like physical diversity or whatever, so like race, gender, and all these sort of things, but I just mean that strength comes from lots of people working together and lots of different approaches, different ways to solving problems. So genius rarely happens alone, and it's about trusting others as well. I think that like you should, as a more senior engineer or looking to become a senior engineer, should be growing a network of people and learning from as many different sources as you can. That's the best way to learn, and find approaches that actually don't agree with you, but actually completely disagree with you. Like that's the best way to kind of like break down your own sort of barriers and learn like new thought processes. And obviously it's tight for time, but I just wanted to mention a load of things that can be done. I'll send some stuff out afterwards as well, either on Twitter or on Slack or whatever, about things that I think are really important for senior engineers. So it's not just those couple of points that I brought up before. It's a whole range of things. So thanks very much. And yeah, I'll see you on Twitter or Slack.